Chapter 121. Looking closely at this large pit, one would find that this large pit had ring-like patterns, like fingerprints, as if a large vertical drill had bored straight down. It was very clear at this large pit was not naturally formed. This large pit was likely drilled not long ago. Li Xuangan meticulously examined the large pit and finally drew this conclusion. Li Qiye carefully observed the large pit. He subtly measured and calculated it, finally revealing a smile. He instructed Protector Mo. Protector Mo, go back immediately and fetch the purple mulberry wood for me, the more the better. Also, bring me a large pot, 3 bottles of vinegar, 6 bottles of jiuyi water, and azure boneless. Li Qiye listed a bunch of medicinal names. Although Protector Mo didn't know what Li Qiye wanted to do, he memorized each one. After Li Qiye finished his instructions, he immediately flew away, not to ring to be negligent in the slightest. As long as a cultivator reaches the heavenly origin realm, they can fly and glide without relying on any external treasures. Senior brother, what is this for? Seeing Li Qiye request so many items, Nan Huairen couldn't help but ask curiously. Li Xuangan was also puzzled. Li Qiye had listed a large pile of medicinal names, many of which she had never even heard of. Li Qiye smiled and said, smoking out a rat. After speaking, he simply sat down, comfortably waiting for Protector Mo to return. Protector Mo did not delay at all. Even with flying, he still took about a day's time. Set fire and burn it. After Protector Mo returned, he brought a large amount of purple mulberry wood to Li Qiye, all of which was dry firewood. Li Qiye gave the command, and Nan Huairen and Protector Mo immediately piled the dry firewood of the purple mulberry wood at the mouth of the large pit and lit the fire. In an instant, dense smoke billowed into the large pit. This dense smoke carried a peculiar scent, a scent that was hard to describe. As the dense smoke continuously poured into the large pit, after a long time, there was finally some movement. A burst of rumbling noise and the ground shook, as if an earth ox was turning over. Boom. Following a loud noise, a giant monster burst out from inside the vertical pit. After the giant monster rushed out, with a boom, it heavily crashed onto the ground, creating a large crater in the earth. Who is disturbing my sleep with this disgusting smoky smell? An old, roaring voice rang out, seemingly furious about being smoked by the dense smoke. Examining the giant monster that crashed onto the ground, Nan Huairen and his companions couldn't help but stare wide-eyed. The giant monster that slammed into the ground was not some ferocious, terrifying beast, but an enormous snail, a talking snail. This was likely the largest snail Nan Huairen and his group had ever seen in their lives, and the only talking snail. Seeing such a giant snail, only Li Qiye remained calm and composed. At this moment, Li Qiye stood up, assessed the enormous snail, and calmly said, "Not bad. To be able to achieve 6th decipherment. For your clan, it is indeed not easy." Li Qiye's words made the snail tremble. Its 2 large eyes on its antennae, like ox eyes, stared intently at Li Qiye. The old voice rang out once again, shouting like thunder. "Kid, who are you, to know such a theory of 6th decipherment? Who I am is not important. What is important is that you appear here again." Li Qiye remained calm and composed, looking at the large snail and saying, "As for the 6th decipherment you speak of, it's nothing great. I can even speak of the 18th decipherment. You good-for-nothing kid. Talking nonsense and speaking outrageously. No one in the world knows the 18th decipherment." The enormous snail shouted. "No, that's not right. If the 18th decipherment truly exists, only one person definitely knows it." Having said this, the enormous snail stared at Li Qiye, its 2 eyes now like it was smugly enjoying itself, saying, "No, that's not right. Apart from that existence, no one in the world knows the 18th decipherment. For you, a human youth, to know the 18th decipherment would be the strange thing." Leisurely yellow illustration, summit night sea green, holy mulberry at the locust tree, golden raven enters the suction. At this moment, Li Qiye spoke, uttering a passage of true decipherment that Li Xuangan and the others could not understand at all. Hearing this passage of true decipherment from Li Qiye, the snail was greatly shaken and horrified. Its big eyes incredulously stared at Li Qiye. In this instant, a fat, chubby giant hand stretched from beneath the snail shell, and instantly grabbed Qiye. In an instant, Qiye was captured by this hand and held in the sky, causing Protector Mo and Li Xuangan to be terrified. Li Xuangan and her companions wanted to take action, but Qiye waved high sleeve, signaling them to calm down. How do you know this passage of true decipherment? The large snail said incredulously, its big eyes fixed on Qiye. It's merely the introduction to the 7th decipherment movement, nothing special. I can speak of the 18th decipherment as well. Qiye smiled, speaking calmly. Speak. Quickly tell me the 18th decipherment. The enormous snail began to grow impatient and could not wait, its old voice bellowed. The 18th decipherment has always been what your clan seeks. For me to tell it to you, how could it be so easy? If you follow me, perhaps I can consider it. Qiye spoke with leisurely grace. Ignorant boy. How dare you negotiate terms with this old man? The enormous snail shouted irritably. Wait until this old man rips open your sea of consciousness and extracts your memories. Let's see what you can hide. As soon as he finished speaking, one of the snail's antennae surprisingly transformed into a chain of law, instantly stabbing into Qiye's glabella, plunging straight to probe Qiye's sea of consciousness. Not good. Seeing this scene, Li Xuanyan's expression drastically changed, knowing that disaster was imminent. Boom. But in this instant, the entire heaven and earth seemed to explode. A ray of immortal light instantly burst out from Qiye's glabella. With a loud noise, the enormous snail was blown flying toward the horizon. In an instant, Qiye was like a furious immortal emperor. A ray of immortal light exploded from his glabella, directly shocking Nan Huai-Ren and his master to the ground. Even Li Xuangan could bar. Ili, stand firm. Qiye gently descended onto the ground. The immortal light at his glabella faded away. Even so, when that immortal light exploded, Qiye was like a furious immortal emperor. All the gods of the NE heavens and 10 earths had to bow down beneath that ray of immortal light. With great difficulty, Nan Huai-Ren and his master, who had been prostrate, finally stood up. After Li Xuangan stood firm, her face was also pale. The immortal light explosion just now was truly terrifying. When that ray of immortal light exploded, be it a marquis, a true man, or even an ancient saint and saint emperor, they were nothing more than ants. At this moment, Nan Huai-Ren and his master both looked at Qiye with awe. Now, they finally sensed that Qiye's terrifying nature far exceeded their imagination. How dare you probe my sea of consciousness and extract my memories? You thing that doesn't know death. At this moment, Qiye's expression was cold as water. Although the furious immortal emperor aura from before was gone, he still made people shiver with fear, as if he were an inviolable immortal EMP. Error. That enormous snail had an astonishing background, but unfortunately, he absolutely should not have tried to probe Qiye's sea of consciousness. In the remote desolate era, Qiye fell into the immortal devil cave, his soul was pulled out and refined into the dark crow. Later, he was involuntarily summoned back to the immortal devil cave and had his memories read by the existence within the immortal devil cave. It wasn't until later, when Qiye had sufficient ability, schemed against the world, united countless ancient sages, and plotted against the immortal devil cave, that he finally escaped the immortal devil cave's probing. Since then, Qiye's greatest taboo was having his sea of consciousness opened and his memories extracted by others. After he gained the ability to foster immortal emperors, he reinforced his soul, reinforced his sea of consciousness, and reinforced his memories time and time again. It can be said that his soul, true fate, sea of consciousness, and memories were reinforced by immortal emperors. Not only immortal Emperor Ming-Ren, but also immortal Emperor Shuepai, immortal Emperor Tun Ri, immortal Emperor Ba Mie, and even the Black Dragon King and others had reinforced his memories for him. If anyone touches his sea of consciousness and touches his memories, it is equivalent to touching the immortal emperor's reinforcement. They will absolutely be suppressed by the immortal emperor's reinforcement. This means that no one besides Qiye is allowed to read his sea of consciousness and memories, even an immortal emperor is probably not permitted. This is the result of Li Qiye's drifting for hundreds of thousands of years, painstakingly managing one era after another. This is also the thing he fears the most. Today, this snail, ignorant of the details, actually wanted to use a divine ability to read Li Qiye's memories. This was undoubtedly seeking death. Drag him back. Finally, Li Qiye commanded. Protector Mo and his disciple quickly responded and left. After more than half a day, following a burst of rumbling sounds, Protector Mo and his disciple finally dragged the enormous snail back. The T. Of them dragging the snail was like dragging a small mountain. The enormous snail was dragged in front of Li Qiye, and it was now motionless. Senior brother, is he dead yet? Nan Huairen asked after dragging the enormous snail back. I spared his life temporarily. Life or death depends on his own performance. Li Qiye commanded, set up the pot, prepare the medicine, and boil him. Protector Mo and his disciple heard Li Qiye's command and immediately lifted the giant pot. Fortunately, Protector Mo was quick-witted and brought a pot that was sufficiently large. The two of them poured all the medicinal herbs they brought into the pot, and then placed the enormous snail inside the pot to boil. Not long after, the water in the pot boiled vigorously, and all the medicine was boiled into a medicinal pulp. At this moment, the enormous snail finally slowly woke up. Even if he was awake, he could not move now. He had been suppressed by the Immortal Emperor's reinforcement. At this moment, he was meat on T. He chopping block, completely at Li Qiye's mercy. You, who are you? The enormous snail was immersed in the large pot. With great difficulty, his two antennae finally poked out from the water. His large, ox-like eyes looked at Li Qiye, and his eyes were filled with roar. What kind of person was one whose memories were reinforced by an immortal emperor? Considering the 13 or 14-year-old youth in front of him, that was simply impossible. The last immortal emperor was also 30,000 years ago. Logically speaking, the youth in front of him absolutely could not have seen an immortal emperor. However, the youth in front of him had not only seen an immortal emperor, but his sea of consciousness was reinforced. A ray of immortal light exploded, suppressing him instantly. This impression was too deeply etched on him to be erased. Under the suppression of this absolute power, the terror emanated from the deepest part of his soul. This was something that absolutely only an immortal emperor could suppress. Who I am is no longer important. You have touched my bottom line. At this moment, Li Qiye's expression improved greatly, and he slowly spoke. For some reason, when Li Qiye's expression changed for the better, whether it was Nan Huairen, Protector Mo, or Li Xuangan, they all let out a sigh of relief. When Li Qiye was furious, they felt like a large rock was pressing on their chest, making it hard to breathe. It was like a furious immortal emperor, truly frightening. You, what do you want to do? At this moment, the enormous snail knew disaster was upon him, and he changed color and spoke. Li Qiye spoke leisurely. What else can I do? Putting you in the pot to boil, what do you think I can do? Boiling out your longevity blood, and incidentally brewing a pot of cooling snail soup. They haven't tasted this flavor. Have they? Who knows, after they taste it, they might have an endless aftertaste. This is absolutely impossible. My body cannot be refined by mortal fire, and cannot be decomposed by ordinary water. The enormous snail said. Li Qiye smiled and said, that's for others. But for me, that point is impossible to achieve. Since I know your origin, I can deal with you. Do you know what the water boiling you is formulated with? This formulation for boil. A pot of snail soup is not only delicious, but also absolutely a great tonic. The enormous snail in the pot heard these words, and couldn't help but taste the medicinal pulp in the pot a little. Savoring the flavor, he was instantly horrified. Once these medicinal ingredients re-decocted into a medicinal pulp, they absolutely restrain his protective shell. At this moment, Li Qiye had leapt onto the edge of the pot, took out the array gate blade, and slowly said, you should know that drawing blood from your clan is an art. I know that your protective shell can be said to be impervious to blades and spears, and difficult for treasured artifacts to damage. How? After being boiled with this medicinal pulp, you should clearly understand the consequences. As soon as he finished speaking, he struck with the blade like lightning. In an instant, Qiye had made line after line of blade marks on the enormous snail. Each and every blade mark intertwined, surprisingly forming a mysterious diagram. This diagram looked like an aura Y formation, yet also like a heavenly Tao chapter, and even more like a chapter of Tao principles dissolving the enormous snail's shell. At this moment, blood slowly seeped out from each and every blade mark. Every drop of this fresh blood was extremely beautiful. Each drop of fresh blood was like a priceless pearl. The drops of fresh blood rolled down into the pot, blending with the medicinal pulp, emitting bursts of alluring medicinal fragrance, making people drool, and they couldn't help but swallow their saliva. Longevity blood. Seeing the drops of fresh blood rolling down, Protector Mo couldn't help but become moved. For a cultivator, longevity blood is extremely precious. There is even a saying of 1 drop of blood equals N,000 vital essences. 1 drop of longevity blood can contain 10,000 drops of heaven and earth vital essence. This technique of Qiye's frightened the enormous snail out of its wits. They belong to a mysterious type of creature, neither Yao clan, nor heavenly beasts or longevity spirits. Their origins are astonishing, and they are rare in the world. They have a protective shell that is virtually indestructible and difficult for treasured artifacts to harm. However, today, Qiye knew the method to decoct and open their shell, and also knew the technique to draw longevity blood from his clan. He understood that he had met his nemesis today. As the longevity blood eroded, the enormous snail felt like his soul was about to be extracted, and his true fate was becoming weaker and weaker. If this continued, he would truly be boiled into a pot of snail soup. You, what do you want? You, what do you want? Finally, the enormous snail's heart trembled, and he shouted loudly. If he persisted in being stubborn now, he really would be boiled into snail soup. Qiye slowly glanced at him after a while, and finally said, "How about this? I just happen to be short of a mount. Why don't you stay by my side?" Qiye's words immediately made Nan Huairen and his companions standing by the side silent. A true great person would at least choose a mount with a good appearance, not to mention peerless divine beasts like true dragons and phoenixes. Even a Jiao horse would have more style than this enormous snail in front of them. Qiye's words caused the enormous snail to fall silent. Although the number of their clan is indeed very small, they have an arrogant origin. Furthermore, his cultivation is absolutely formidable. For him to become a mount for a human, that truly was unbearable for him. The enormous snail remained silent. Qiye glanced at him and said, "Don't be arrogant, thinking that your 3/10 bloodline is something great. Even if the ancestor of your clan were still alive, upon seeing me, he would only be fit to call himself a junior." Qiye's words caused the enormous snail to tremble. His 2 large eyes looked at Qiye and said, "You, who exactly are you? Who I am is not important. Either you stay and follow me, or I boil you into snail soup." Qiye said with leisurely ease. "If you serve me diligently and faithfully from now on, I will impart the 12th decipherment to you." That single sentence from Qiye immediately made the enormous snail overjoyed. Becoming Qiye's mount was a choice he was unwilling to make. He was even willing to be boiled into meat soup. However, when the 12th decipherment was mentioned, the situation was completely different. He knew clearly that since ancient times, only one existence knew the 12th decipherment, but the Qiye in front of him was clearly not that existence. "Good, I agree." Finally, the enormous snail submitted and made his choice. "Swear on your true fate." Qiye showed no surprise and slowly said. In the end, the enormous snail swore on his true fate. This scene made Nan Huairen and his master become moved. Swearing on true fate is an extremely serious matter for a cultivator. Once a true fate oath is sworn, one must abide by the oath. Violating the oath will result in a backlash. Of course, a true fate oath must be done under the voluntary will of both parties. After the enormous snail swore the true fate oath, Qiye had Nan Huairen and Protector Mo drag him out of the iron pot. At this moment, Qiye placed a hand on the enormous snail's body. A ray of light was seen flying out from the enormous snail's body. This ray of light instantly disappeared into Qiye's glabella. After this ray of light flew out from his body, the enormous snail trembled all over, and only then was he able to slowly stand up. A pot of great tonic medicine has been brewed. Qiye said. Since you have followed me, you should drink it. These words made the enormous snail both laugh and cry. This pot of medicine was brewed with his longevity blood. What's wrong? Don't want to drink? If you don't want to drink it, those two still want to snatch it up. Qiye pointed at Protector Mo and his disciple and said. Drink, drink, why wouldn't I drink it? The enormous snail was truly afraid that Protector Mo and his disciple would snatch it from him. He rushed up to the giant pot and drank it in large gulps. This pot of medicinal pulp was brewed with his longevity blood. If he didn't drink it, his loss would be even greater, and the injuries within would require a period of time to recover. Finally, the enormous snail finished drinking the pot of medicinal pulp. Only then did he let out a long breath. He had just made a trip through the gates of hell. Put away your shell. At this moment, Qiye commanded the enormous snail. The enormous snail made hand seals and transformed quickly. Appearing before Qiye and his companions was a gaunt, shriveled old man. The old man's forehead had a pair of small, fleshy antennae, and at the same time, he also wore a small shell on his back, like a shield. Is this your true form? Nan Huairen was slightly stunned. The old man in front of him was too great a contrast to his appearance just now. Just now, the enormous snail was like a small mountain, but the small, gaunt, shrive-led old man in front of them could be blown away by a gust of wind. No, this is my secondary body. The old man shook his head and smiled and said, the one just now was the true form. After speaking, he bowed towards Qiye and said, this little old man is Niufan. I was blinded by greed and offended young master earlier. Cow dung, Niufan, Ngufan. Hearing the old man's words, Nan Huairen couldn't help but stare wide-eyed and said, is there such a name? The old man couldn't help but glare at Nan Huairen, and said with some embarrassment, it's Niufan, Ngufan, Fun, Fan, as in struggle, Fendo. Misunderstanding. Nan Huairen was embarrassed, forced a smile, and hurriedly apologized. This made Li Xuangan on the side want to laugh, but it wasn't appropriate to laugh, so she had to hide her amusement in her heart. Having shed his former giant body, the currently shriveled and thin Niufan instead gave Nan Huairen a feeling of familiarity. Nan Huairen couldn't help but be friendly, saying to Niufan, Grandpa Nyo, you've been digging a hole in the old site of our cleansing incense ancient sect. What are you looking for? You're not trying to dig up our cleansing incense ancient sect's treasure, are you? Just digging around casually. Besides, this place has been visited by countless people. If there really were treasure, it wouldn't be my turn. Niufan glared at Nan Huairen in annoyance. Grandpa Nyo isn't digging for treasure, so why dig such a deep hole? Nan Huairen persisted. Qiye glanced at Niufan and said, he is looking for the Calamity God, Wushan. The Calamity God? What is the Calamity God? Nan Huairen looked bewildered, glancing at Qiye, then at Niufan. Meanwhile, Protector Mo's expression was shaken. He looked at Niufan and said in surprise, you are looking for the guardian god of our cleansing incense ancient sect. Upon hearing the three words, guardian god, Nan Huairen's expression was also shaken. He said in surprise, legend says it's the strongest existence of our cleansing incense ancient sect. Apart from the founding patriarch, no one can rival the guardian god. Niufan had no choice but to admit. I was just looking around casually. I heard that your guardian god left a long time ago. I just wanted to flip over this land to see if he left behind any words, perhaps we have a destined connection. If the guardian god were still around, our cleansing incense ancient sect wouldn't be where it is today. Nan Huairen, having heard of the guardian god, couldn't help but murmur. There were truly many legends related to the cleansing incense ancient sect's guardian god. A guardian god is not something every sect possesses. Apart from extremely powerful sects that have their own guardian gods, some sects with destined connections may also possess a guardian god. As for the origin of a guardian god, there are generally no restrictions. It could be a heavenly beast, a longevity spirit, or some other kind of creature. In most situations, a guardian god exists alongside a sect and only leaves after the sect is destroyed. The Cleansing Incense ancient sect once possessed a guardian god. This guardian god was called the Calamity God, Huishan, or Disaster God. Legend has it that this guardian god was extremely powerful. Some later generations even said that even during the time of Immortal Emperor Ming Ren, apart from Immortal Emperor Ming Ren himself, no one could rival this guardian god. The reason the Cleansing Incense ancient sect stood firm later was, to some extent, greatly related to the existence of that guardian god. There are many legends regarding the origin of the Cleansing Incense ancient sect's guardian god. Some legends believe the Cleansing Incense ancient sect's guardian god emerged from the burial ground Zhangdi. Other legends believe the Cleansing Incense ancient sect's guardian god was born in the old land, Jiu. Still other legends suggest it was brought back by Immortal Emperor Ming Ren after subduing it from the outer heavens. The Cleansing Incense ancient sect's guardian god could be said to have protected the Cleansing Incense ancient sect from one era to another, but for unknown reasons, one day, it suddenly left and has since vanished without a trace, never seen by anyone again. Some believe the time the Cleansing Incense ancient sect's guardian god disappeared was 50,000 years ago. Many more believe it went missing even earlier, and that the Cleansing Incense ancient sect merely concealed the news. As for why the Cleansing Incense ancient sect's guardian god suddenly left, why it suddenly abandoned the sect it had always protected, no one knows, including the disciples of the Cleansing Incense Science sect at that time. This matter later became an unanswered mystery. Young master, where are we going now? Back. At this moment, Protector Mo asked Li Qiye. Li Qiye looked at the covered land, shook his head, and said, "No, you all bury me. Bury me." Hearing Li Qiye's words, Nan Huairen was dumbfounded, saying, "Senior brother, this is bad luck. Bury me." Li Qiye didn't say much, commanding Protector Mo. Finally, Li Qiye chose a location. Protector Mo buried Li Qiye inside the highest mountain of the old site, burying him extremely deep. Niufen personally dug the hole for Li Qiye before he could be buried. "Is senior brother all right?" Li Qiye's sudden request to be buried shocked Nan Huairen. If senior brother hadn't been completely lucid, he really would have thought senior brother had gone mad. "He's fine." Li Xuangan shook her head, then said nothing else. Although she didn't know why Li Qiye wanted to bury himself, he must have his reasons for doing so. It's a kind of ritual. Niufen carefully examined the place Li Qiye chose, then looked at the manner in which Li Qiye was buried, and finally said, "This is an extremely rare ritual. It could be a form of communication ritual." Communication? Communicating with what? What kind of thing needs one to be buried so deeply to communicate? Nan Huairen couldn't help but ask curiously. Niufen didn't give Nan Huairen an answer to his curiosity. He didn't know what Li Qiye wanted to communicate with, but he vaguely felt that this matter was very important. Li Qiye remained buried underground for a full 5 days and 5 nights. Finally, he climbed out of the ground himself. "Let's go back." Finally, climbing out from the mud, he only said this one sentence, saying nothing else. Nan Huairen held a belly full of curiosity. He desperately wanted to ask, but seeing Li Qiye's disappointed expression, he dared not ask further. If Li Qiye didn't want to say it, it would probably be useless no matter who asked. Finally, Niufen used his true form to carry Li Qiye and the others back. As a snail, his crawling speed made Nan Huairen's eyes nearly pop out. Niufen's crawling speed on the ground was simply comparable to lightning, unbelievably fast. Even many flying treasured artifacts might not be able to keep up with his speed. What was even more miraculous was that he could crawl silently, or he could crawl with a rumbling thunder-like speed, completely at will. Regardless of the crawling method, the speed remained unchanged. Sitting on the snail's back, Nan Huairen was dumbfounded. In fact, so was his master. This was their first time riding a snail, and it was the fastest snail they had ever encountered. Grandpa Nyo, what is the heavenly ox ancestral creature, Tian Nyo Zuwa? Thinking of Li Qiye's words, Nan Huairen couldn't help but ask curiously. He had never heard of such a title. Heavenly ox ancestral creature, this title sounded utterly bizarre. An ancient creature, rare in the world, forming its own clan. Mortals rarely see them. Niofan hadn't spoken, but Li Qiye said it. Seeing that Li Qiye was in a much better mood, Nan Huairen boldly asked with a chuckle, Senior brother, what is the 18th decipherment you mentioned? Li Qiye merely glanced at him and said nothing. It is the true fate decipherment of our heavenly ox ancestral creature clan. Niofan said. He also strongly desired Li Qiye to speak the 18th decipherment. It was of utmost importance to him. True fate decipherment. Is it a cultivation method? Or an emperor art? Nan Huairen couldn't help but ask curiously. Niofan, crawling extremely fast, shook his head and said. No, it's not a cultivation method, nor is it a Tao principle. In a sense, it is the true decipherment that unbinds the chains of our heavenly ox ancestral creature clan. Chains? 18 chains. What will happen if the 18 chains are unbinded? Nan Huairen asked a flurry of questions at once. Niofan pondered for a moment and finally said. I don't know either, because I have never seen a member of my clan achieve the 18th decipherment. I have only heard some legends. If one can achieve the 18th decipherment, and if there are gods in the heavens, we can slaughter the gods. Hearing this, not only Nan Huairen, but Li Xuangan and her companions were also shaken. Slaughter the gods. What a shocking phrase. At this moment, they finally understood why Niofan was willing to submit. As for Li Qiye, he merely smiled. The 18th decipherment, how distant those memories were. It was neither a cultivation method nor a secret art. It was precisely because of this that this memory had always remained undeterred. As Li Qiye's group returned to the cleansing incense ancient sect, Elder Sun was already waiting anxiously outside the mountain gate. When he saw Li Qiye's group returning riding an enormous snail from afar, Elder Sun was dumbfounded. Riding a snail at such a speed was simply too illogical. However, Elder Sun didn't pay attention to this at the moment. He looked at Li Qiye and hurriedly said, Thank goodness you finally returned. He then quickly pulled Li Qiye off the snail. Hurry to the ancestral hall. There's almost a fight in the ancestral hall. Elder Sun said anxiously to Li Qiye. Li Qiye looked at Elder Sun's anxious demeanor and said, Did an external enemy invade? Or has the protection Saint Upper Kingdom come knocking? Seeing Li Qiye speak so slowly, Elder Sun had no choice but to say, No, the sect leader has returned. She is in the ancestral hall. Elder Gu and the others are about to clash with the sect leader. You'd better go quickly and see. Sect leader. Hearing Elder Sun's words, Li Qiye was also surprised. Li Qiye had no impression of the sect leader, Suyong Wang. One could even say that he never paid attention to this convenient master and never inquired about her. Suyong Wang's return now was genuinely a surprise to Li Qiye. Li Qiye calmly said, That's good. I should also meet this master of mine. Saying this, he walked inside. Niofan shook his body and reverted to the appearance of the old man, following beside Li Qiye. Seeing such an enormous snail transform into an old man, Elder Sun was momentarily stunned, but he didn't have time to ask about it at the moment. At this time, in the ancestral hall, the elders were moments away from an all-out quarrel. The elders, as the current highest governing echelon of the cleansing incense ancient sect, should have maintained their composure, but at this moment, Elder Zhou and the others were all glaring, and the object of their glaring was the current sect leader of the cleansing incense ancient sect, Suyong Wang. Only Elder Gu's attitude was still slightly better. He merely sat there, silent, not saying a single word. Suyong Wang, as the sect leader of the cleansing incense ancient sect, was, in fact, never welcomed by the high-level members of the cleansing incense ancient sect. The reason was very simple. Suyan Guang, as the sect leader, had absolutely no background or experience within the cleansing incense ancient sect. One could even say that Suyong Wang was not a disciple of the cleansing incense NT sect. Su Yongwang's sudden appearance as the sect leader of the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect was truly abrupt. The entire Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect was completely unprepared, and one could even say that no one knew of such a person before then. Su Yongwang was able to become the sect leader of the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect because the former sect leader was still alive at the time. There were also 2 or 3 grand elders, Taishangzi, Hang Lao, still alive, and there was even one extremely long-lived grand elder, rumored to have participated in the battle 30,000 years ago and had been in seclusion due to severe injuries. The specific details of this matter were unclear to everyone, except for the great elder Qiye. In short, Su Yongwang suddenly appeared in the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect and was designated the next sect leader by the former sect leader. This decision received the unanimous consent of the then-present grand elders. Even the longest-living grand elder approved it. Some elders even heard that the grand elder who participated in the 30,000-year battle personally summoned elder Qiye to persuade him. In short, overnight, Qiye agreed to Su Yongwang taking on the position of sect leader of the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect. In reality, the entire Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect was in an uproar at the time. This was too big a matter. A completely unknown person suddenly became the sect leader of the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect. This was truly difficult for the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect to accept. At that time, Qiye, holding the highest position and strongest voice in the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect, convinced Elder Zhou and the others and suppressed a portion of the disciples who strongly opposed Su Yongwang becoming the sect leader. Only then did the standoff stabilize. However, Su Yongwang also seemed to have self-awareness. As sect leader, she did not stay in the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect but took a small portion of disciples, including a few hall masters, her. Since then, Su Yongwang, as the sect leader, was in the borderlands of the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect, basically not interfering with the internal decisions of the Cleansing Incense NT Sect. Despite this, she maintained contact with the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect. Fortunately, this was the case, and the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect then stabilized. This also led to most major decisions of the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect being made by the then 6 great heirs. It could be said that great elder Qiye was a great hero for Su Yongwang becoming the sect leader of the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect. Before Su Yongwang appeared, Qiye could be called the number 1 heir to the sect leader position of the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect, and he was the most qualified to assume the sect leader role. Qiye was both a personal disciple of the former sect leader, and he also had the most seniority among the first-generation disciples, having joined the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect the longest. At the same time, he had always been cautious and diligent within the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect and had made great contributions to the entire sect. If Qiye hadn't stepped up at the time to persuade Elder Zhou and the others, probably no one else would have been able to convince the high-level members of the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect. Even Qiye was willing to cede his sect leader position. Under Qiye's personal guidance, Su Yongwang was able to ascend to the position of sect leader. Su Yongwang, who had always been outside, returned today. It could be said that Su Yongwang, as sect leader, rarely returned. After the grand elders of the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect passed away, and finally, the former sect leader passed away, Su Yongwang never returned again. This time, Su Yongwang's return was for Ma Bei Ridge. This time, Su Yongwang wanted to bring her disciples into Ma Bei Ridge. This matter was immediately opposed by Elder Zhou and the others. Currently, in the eyes of high-level members like Elder Zhou, Qiye was the Lord of Revitalization. He was the true helmsman of the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect. Su Yongwang's return was naturally met with resistance from the high-level members of the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect. Moreover, the high-level members of the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect did not trust Su Yongwang. How could they hand over their disciples to her? Because of this matter, both sides almost erupted in a full-blown quarrel. Frankly, Elder Zhou and the others would absolutely not agree to Su Yongwang holding authority in the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect now. All right. Qiye has returned. Everyone, let's talk slowly. After bringing Qiye in, Elder Sun hurriedly said to everyone, Seeing Li Qiye's return, Elder Zhou and the others breathed a sigh of relief. The atmosphere in the hall visibly eased. "Senior brother, this is our master, the sect leader." At this moment, Tu Buyu, standing behind Su Yonghuang, smiled kindly and said to Li Qiye. Elder Zhou and the others showed some dissatisfaction with the title sect leader, letting out a faint grunt. Li Qiye looked at Su Yonghuang. He couldn't help but be stunned. The Su Yonghuang before him was a female, and a very young female. The woman before him was around 25 or 6. With a graceful and elegant demeanor. A light yellow dress further highlighted her nobility. The woman before him had a forehead like the moon and eyes like stars. Her most captivating feature was her delicate eyebrows. Her delicate eyebrows were like swords, adding 3 parts of a regal and overbearing aura to her grace and nobility. It was as if she were a naturally born imperial daughter. Peerlessly dignified and graceful. In terms of beauty, Li Xuangan beside Li Qiye was no less than the woman before him, but Li Xuangan lacked this peerless dignity and regal grace. Looking at the woman before him, seeing Su Yonghuang's appearance and features, Li Qiye's heart trembled. He, who was always composed, couldn't help but be momentarily lost in thought. This was too similar, truly too similar. As Li Qiye looked at Su Yonghuang was also assessing Li Qiye. The master and disciple were sizing each other up. Li Qiye regained his composure, glanced at Nan Huairen beside him, and said, "You never said the sect leader was a woman." "Ah." Nan Huairen was slightly stunned, forced a smile, and whispered, "Senior brother." "Never asked, did you?" "I thought senior brother already knew." Li Qiye was somewhat speechless. He had always assumed Su Yonghuang was a man. Tu Buyu, his junior brother, was already over 1,000 years old. Therefore, his master, Su Yonghuang, must be a 6 or 7,000-year-old gray-haired old man. But Li Qiye didn't expect Su Yonghuang to be merely a 25 or 26-year-old woman, a peerless woman. Qiye, the sect leader, intends to bring the disciples into Ma Bei Ridge. At this point, Gu Tieshou also sought to mediate and said. Su Yonghuang looked at Li Qiye. Then said, Ma Bei Ridge, for our cleansing incense ancient sect now, is the best form of tempering. It is also the time for our cleansing incense ancient sect to reap benefits. Based on my calculation, the Ma Bei Ridge will open in a maximum of half a year, and a minimum of 3 months. This is a once-in-a-century opportunity, and our cleansing incense ancient sect cannot miss it. I know this clearly. Ma Bei Ridge will open 63 days from now. Li Qiye nodded lightly. He had already known when Ma Bei Ridge would open when he was buried underground. Then what is your intention? At this moment, Gu Tieshou asked Li Qiye. All the elders present were looking at Li Qiye. Deep down, Elder Zhou and the others were even more inclined to push Li Qiye to assume the sect leader position of the cleansing incense ancient sect. May I speak with the sect leader alone? Finally, Li Qiye instructed Gu Tieshou and the others. Gu Tieshou and the others exchanged glances. Ultimately, the 5 elders, including Gu Tieshou, agreed to Li Qiye's request. Li Qiye returned to Solitary Peak. Li Xuangan and the others all withdrew. In the small courtyard, only Li Qiye, Su Yonghuang, and Tu Buyu remained. Tu Buyu still stood behind Su Yonghuang. Li Qiye looked at Su Yonghuang before him, remaining silent for a long time. A few memories surfaced in his mind. After a long while, Li Qiye finally spoke. How is the Tianyasu clan, Tianyasu Jia, doing? Li Qiye's words immediately changed Su Yonghuang's expression. Even Tu Buyu was startled. Su Yonghuang looked at Li Qiye, moved, and said. How do you know about Tianya, Heaven's Edge? Aside from old Tu, no one in the cleansing incense ancient sect knows about the Tianyasu clan. Li Qiye's first words revealed her origin. How could this not move Su Yonghuang? The Tianyasu clan does not reveal its name to the world, and no one in the 9 worlds knows of it. The founding patriarch told me in a dream. Li Qiye finally calmed his emotions, concluding with a leisurely smile. Su Yonghuang assessed Li Qiye with suspicion, but she certainly did not believe Li Qiye's explanation. I know why the former sect leader and the grand elders chose you as the sect leader, Li Qiye slowly said. A descendant of Immortal Emperor Ming Ren is certainly qualified to assume the sect leader position of the cleansing incense ancient sect. How do you know this? Su Yonghuang's expression changed drastically. Xianxia Su clan was merely the name they called themselves, but the world was even less aware that the Xianxia Su clan was the descendant lineage of Immortal Emperor Ming Ren. The founding patriarch told me in a dream. Li Qiye smiled and said. Su Yonghuang shook her head. She naturally did not believe this kind of explanation. The whole concept of being told in a dream was simply too absurd. If it wasn't the founding patriarch telling Li Qiye in a dream, then how did this 14-year-old youth know Xianxia Su clan? Finally, Li Qiye couldn't help but sigh. The memory was too distant. Although he had always known that the Xianxia Su clan was well, he had never been there since that year. The Xianxia Su clan was a place that, even as the Dark Crow, he preferred not to discuss much, because this matter almost caused a rift between him and Immortal Emperor Ming Ren. Immortal Emperor Ming Ren started as a boy with nothing, eventually bore the heaven's will, and achieved the status of Immortal Emperor. This was truly not easy. Besides his own hard work and Li Qiye's guidance, it was also inseparable from the assistance of many brothers and friends. That year, there was a female general by Immortal Emperor Ming Ren's side. She followed Immortal Emperor Ming Ren for a very long time. It could even be said that wherever his footsteps went before Immortal Emperor Ming Ren achieved the status of Immortal Emperor, so too went the footsteps of this woman. This woman at the time was said to have come from a prestigious aristocratic family, but Li Qiye, as the Dark Crow, was impressed by her talent. At that time, as the Dark Crow, he spent considerable effort to keep this woman by Immortal Emperor Ming Ren's side. Li Qiye's effort was not wasted. The woman stayed by Immortal Emperor Ming Ren's side, acting like a virtuous wife, constantly assisting Immortal Emperor Ming Ren. With her talent, she recruited many talented individuals for Immortal Emperor Ming Ren. When Immortal Emperor Ming Ren bore the heaven's will and achieved the status of Immortal Emperor, she also wrote the imperial decrees for the world for Immortal Emperor Ming Ren. In Li Qiye's view, she was the most suitable candidate for the Empress. Moreover, for over 100 years, she had been diligent and cautious by Immortal Emperor Ming Ren's side. Her contribution to Immortal Emperor Ming Ren becoming an Immortal Emperor was indelible. What was even more commendable was that she always loved Immortal Emperor Ming Ren. It was precisely because of this that Li Qiye, as Immortal Emperor Ming Ren's mentor, always hoped that Immortal Emperor Ming Ren would marry her and establish her as the Empress. But, tragically, Immortal Emperor Ming Ren was head over heels for another girl. Li Qiye once commented on this other girl. Simple to the point of idiocy. This wasn't even the deadliest part. For an immortal emperor, having multiple wives was nothing. Li Qiye could also have let Immortal Emperor Ming Ren marry several virtuous wives. But the deadliest part was that this girl, simple to the point of idiocy, did not like Immortal Emperor Ming Ren. The deadliest part was that this girl liked a fierce enemy of Immortal Emperor Ming Ren. This fierce enemy was arguably Immortal Emperor Ming Ren's strongest opponent in his youth. Immortal Emperor Ming Ren, however, was passionately devoted to that girl, simple to the point of idiocy. If one were to praise Immortal Emperor Ming Ren's life, this was the only thing that made Li Qiye want to stamp his feet in anger. When Immortal Emperor Ming Ren was young, Li Qiye had scolded him more than once, calling him a blockhead. There were even times when Li Qiye wanted to smash his head open and erase the memory of that woman. No matter how much Li Qiye, as the Dark Crow, scolded him, the young Immortal Emperor Ming Ren was passionately devoted to that simple, idiotic girl, leaving Li Qiye helpless and beyond cure. Later, Immortal Emperor Ming Ren bore the heaven's will and achieved the status of Immortal Emperor, but he never married. Li Qiye naturally knew why. However, this was not what Li Qiye hoped to see. Especially when Immortal Emperor Ming Ren bore the heaven's will, his state as the Dark Crow was unstable, and he could fall into a state of deep slumber at any moment. At that time, he didn't know how long he would sleep, so before he fell into his deep slumber, he decided to do one thing: leave behind descendants for immortal Emperor Ming Ren. Naturally, the best candidate for this was General Su. Qiye spent considerable effort, finally leading immortal Emperor Ming Ren into a trap. Of course, at that time, even as an immortal emperor, he didn't think his mentor would set him up once. While immortal Emperor Ming Ren was mentally exploring the most dangerous places in the 9 worlds, Qiye arranged for his physical body to share a bed with General Su, ultimately succeeding in conception. When immortal Emperor Ming Ren fought his way back from the most dangerous place, the matter was already a fait accompli. After this incident, immortal Emperor Ming Ren and the Dark Crow Qiye nearly fell out. The roars of both parties echoed through the sky. At that time, immortal Emperor Ming Ren was furious. And Qiye was also enraged. That terrifying aura swept across the 9 heavens and 10 lands. With an immortal emperor enraged, all living beings in the 9 heavens and 10 lands trembled with fear. Naturally, no one dared to ask what happened. In short, the sky was torn apart this time. Immortal Emperor Ming Ren's attitude disheartened General Su. Finally, General Su left immortal Emperor Ming Ren. In this matter, Qiye had always felt guilty towards General Su. That year, he personally brought her to immortal Emperor Ming Ren's side. Despite her family's strong opposition, she ultimately chose to stand with immortal Emperor Ming Ren. It must be known that at that time, immortal Emperor Ming Ren was still a young man with nothing, while General Su not only came from a prestigious and influential family and was peerlessly beautiful, but more importantly, she herself had brilliant talent and wisdom as vast as the sea. At that time, General Su's family certainly did not want her to assist the young, penniless immortal Emperor Ming Ren. In this, Qiye, as the Dark Crow, spent unknown amounts of effort. General Su's willingness to stay was precisely because of this, causing her to be ostracized by her peers. Up until now, General Su was the person Qiye valued. If the young Ming Ren became immortal emperor, General Su was the best choice for empress. Tragically, the young Ming Ren had a problem, being passionately devoted to that simple, idiotic girl. After this incident, Qiye was always apologetic towards General Su. General Su had sacrificed so much, only to end up leaving sadly. At that time, he also knew his time before falling into a deep slumber was limited. Therefore, he used abundant resources and heaven-defying conditions to create a safe haven for General Su. Finally, this place was named the Xianxia Su Clan, Heaven's Edge Su Clan. Qiye knew that General Su chose this name with deep meaning. No matter how far the Heaven's Edge was, her love for immortal Emperor Ming Ren remained unchanged. Only, fate was ultimately cruel. Despite this, General Su at the Xianxia Su clan still raised immortal Emperor Ming Ren's son and prospered the lineage. In later generations, the world only knew that immortal Emperor Ming Ren never married and had no descendants, but no one knew that immortal Emperor Ming Ren's lineage still continued. This secret, apart from the successive inheritors of the Su clan, was only known to Qiye, who had lived all this time. What's wrong? Just as Qiye was lost in recollection, Su Yonghuang, sitting opposite him, called out, bringing Qiye back to his senses. Qiye collected himself, looked at Su Yonghuang, then at Tu Buyu, and said, "Your origin is clear to me. But junior brother Tu couldn't possibly be your disciple, could he? I see that junior brother Tu is not of the Su clan, especially since you cultivate the war god art." The war god art, Zhanshan Jue, was the supreme technique cultivated by immortal Emperor Ming Ren. However, immortal Emperor Ming Ren did not pass it down. Qiye, as the Dark Crow, had General Su pass down this art. The war god art came from the war god temple. Although he, as the Dark Crow, imparted it to immortal Emperor Ming Ren, in principle, immortal Emperor Ming Ren could not pass this cultivation method on. However, Qiye made an exception for General Su. Qiye allowed her to teach the war god art to immortal Emperor Ming Ren's son. It was precisely because of this that the war god art became the hereditary secret art of the Xianxia Su clan. Tu Buyu forced a dry laugh and said, replying to senior brother, "I am a disciple of the cleansing incense ancient sect, and have always been. It's just that my situation is a bit special. After I joined the sect, I rarely stayed in the sect, drifting outside all the time. As for the war god art, I cultivated it later. You were always looking for the Su clan. Qiye stared at Tu Buyu and said. Tu Buyu awkwardly forced a dry laugh and had to speak the truth. I was instructed by my master to look for the descendants of the founding patriarch. Our cleansing incense ancient sect declined, but a grand elder once found some clues from the sect records, believing that the founding patriarch had descendants in the world. When I joined the cleansing incense ancient sect, I was selected to constantly drift outside for the purpose of finding the founding patriarch's descendants, hoping to recover the founding patriarch's emperor art. It is precisely because of this that Elder Gu and the others are not very familiar with my situation, only knowing that I am a disciple of the cleansing incense ancient sect. The Xianxia Su clan does not possess an emperor art. Qiye shook his head and said. Tu Buyu sighed softly and said. Out of the Su clan's sense of duty. After learning about the situation of our cleansing incense ancient sect, they agreed for the sect leader to assume the leadership of the cleansing incense ancient sect. I was also exceptionally taught the war god art. At that time, my cultivation methods were limited, and my cultivation reached a bottleneck, so I destroyed my previous Dao foundation and started anew. Qiye couldn't help but glance at Tu Buyu a little more after hearing this. He had lived for so long, and his Dao foundation was deeply established. Yet, he completely destroyed it to start over. What determination! This required immense resolve. Qiye finally looked at Su Yonghuang and said. You are the inheritor of the Xianxia Su clan. How do you know? Qiye stating her identity immediately made Su Yonghuang moved. There were many disciples in the Su clan now, and there were also collateral branches, but only the future inheritor could control the Su clan. The eternal heaven physique, Zhu Tianti. Qiye said. Only the inheritor of the Su clan can cultivate the eternal heaven physique immortal art. Su Yonghuang's expression changed. Her beautiful eyes stared intently at Qiye, and she said in a deep voice. Who exactly are you? The eternal heaven physique was not passed down by immortal Emperor Mingren. Even in the Su clan, it was a heavenly secret. You should know. The disciple of the cleansing incense ancient sect, your disciple, Qiye. Qiye said with a calm and relaxed smile. Su Yonghuang's beautiful eyes grew cold. Her gaze like a sharp sword staring at Qiye. Her gaze was as if a sharp sword was pressing against Qiye, making people uneasy. However, Qiye remained composedly seated there, still relaxed and at ease. He shook his head lightly and said. Don't try to attack me. Although I know you are truly powerful, coming from the Su clan, within the cleansing incense ancient sect. For me to kill you would be easier than killing an ant. I believe junior brother too has told you about my situation. After a long while, Su Yonghuang finally withdrew the cold light from her eyes. Qiye looked at her for a long time. Finally, he shook his head gently and said. It's a pity, you have cultivated the wrong physique art. The eternal heaven physique originated from the character Yang, Sun/Yang, in the 6 characters of the physique scripture, one of the 2 ultimate Yang physiques. Although Old Tu has spoken of your deeds, and I know you have some talent. Even claiming the founding patriarch spoke to you in a dream, do not speak rashly regarding physique arts. If you know I am the eternal heaven physique, then you should know that as his descendant. The physique is acceptable. Su Yonghuang said coldly. In fact, Su Yonghuang was filled with anger at this moment. Her origin was supposed to be mysterious, yet Qiye easily exposed her details. While she knew absolutely nothing about Qiye, this kind of situation made her fearful. Su Yonghuang's words made Qiye couldn't help but chuckle. Discussing physique, arguing about physique art, looking across the 9 heavens and 10 lands, if he said he was second, probably no one would dare to say they were first. He had immersed himself in the physique scripture for countless years. The immortal physiques that came out of his hands were far more than just immortal Emperor Ming Ren's eternal heaven physique. What are you laughing at? Seeing Qiye laughing, Su Yonghuang said in a deep voice. Although you don't believe it, what I said is the truth. The eternal heaven physique immortal physique art, although it has become the guardian art of your Su clan, you truly have cultivated the wrong physique art. Qiye shook his head. The 6 characters of the physique scripture, he had never allowed them to be spread. Immortal Emperor Ming Ren learned the eternal heaven physique art from him. The Black Dragon King also learned an immortal physique art from him, but they both had an agreement with Qiye, having sworn on their true fates. There was only one exception, and that was General Su. Because General Su had immortal Emperor Ming Ren's son, this meant that the probability of this lineage producing an eternal heaven physique was very high, whether it was the lesser heavenly physique, Xiaozhou Tianti, or the primeval physique, Xiang Tianti, among the emperor physiques, or the great heavenly physique, Dazhou Tianti, among the saint physiques. For General Su, Qiye felt ashamed in his heart. Therefore, he made an exception to impart the eternal heaven physique, immortal physique art to her. This was not because of immortal Emperor Ming Ren, but solely because of General Su's contributions and efforts. Since you say I have cultivated the wrong physique art, then provide evidence. Su Yonghuang looked at Qiye. Seeing that Qiye did not seem to be joking, she said in a deep voice. Qiye looked at Su Yonghuang and finally said, a certain grandmother of your Su clan must have achieved great completion of the demon heaven physique, Ma Tianti, one of the 12 saint physiques, correct? Hearing this, Su Yonghuang's expression subtly shifted. She looked at Qiye with a touch of disbelief and said, how do you know this? I calculated it with my fingers. Qiye smiled and said, furthermore, your current physique, whenever the eternal heaven physique immortal physique art is circulated, is radiant like the scorching sun. Is that not so? This is the characteristic of the eternal heaven physique. The eternal heaven physique is the ultimate yang physique art, one of the 12 immortal physiques. For the physique to be radiant like the scorching sun, what is wrong with that? Su Yonghuang could be considered an expert on this physique, after all. Their ancestor, immortal Emperor Ming Ren, was the eternal heaven physique. Therefore, their Su clan had a very deep understanding of the eternal heaven physique. The problem lies right there. In the center of your physique, which is radiant like the scorching sun, there is a trace of yin intent that is not affected by your scorching physique. Qiye gently shook his head and said. Qiye's words made Su Yonghuang's expression change drastically, because cultivation was an extremely private matter. It was fundamentally impossible for an outsider to know about this kind of situation with her. However, Qiye revealed the secret of her physique with a single sentence. Up until now, she had always believed that the eternal heaven physique was simply like that. If I have cultivated the wrong physique art, then where is the mistake? At this moment, Su Yonghuang was also somewhat wavering and asked. Qiye said. Yin born within yang. A woman with great completion of the demon heaven physique, bearing the flesh and blood of the eternal heaven physique descendant. This truly surprised me. If I am not mistaken, you believe yourself to be born with the lesser heavenly physique, Xiaozhou Tianti, one of the 24 emperor physiques, right? Is that not correct? Su Yonghuang said, moved. Qiye shook his head and said. Wrong. You were born with the Yang Imperial Saint physique, Zhou Yang Xingti. Because your physique looks very similar to the lesser heavenly physique, one of the 24 emperor physiques, in reality, your physique is like the lesser heavenly physique, yet also like the lesser Yang physique, Xiao Yangti, among the emperor physiques. You jumped to a conclusion. Thinking you were a descendant of immortal Emperor Ming Ren, and therefore believed you were born with the lesser heavenly physique. Yang Imperial Saint physique, Zhou Yang Xingti. Su Yonghuang was stunned for a moment, saying. The legend of one of the 6 special saint physiques. Yang Imperial Saint physique. There are 48 types of innate physiques, 4 types per category. There are 24 emperor physiques, 2 types per category. As for saint physiques, cultivators in the world more often refer to 12 types, which correspond to the 12 immortal physiques. However, there are actually 18 saint physiques in total. When mentioning saint physiques, many cultivators often overlook the other 6 saint physiques. Naturally born saint. Physiques are already extremely rare, and the 6 special saint physiques are even rarer, more rare than true dragons and divine phoenixes. Because the 12 immortal physiques correspond to the 12 saint physiques and can be cultivated successfully from emperor physiques, the 6 special saint physiques cannot be cultivated from other physiques. In a sense, the 6 special saint physiques are a kind of hybrid physique. It is precisely because the 6 special saint physiques are extremely rare that many cultivators, when mentioning saint physiques, only talk about the 12 saint physiques. Qiye nodded and said, "It seems you still have a certain understanding of physiques. Not bad, you were born with the Yang Imperial Saint physique, one of the 18 saint physiques, and not the lesser heavenly physique you imagined yourself to be." Su Yongwang's expression became unpredictable for a time. Even with her graceful nobility, she was a little uncontrollable at this moment. This kind of news was both a good thing for her. After all, a naturally born saint physique is much, much stronger than a naturally born emperor physique. But it was also a bad thing. If she were born with the lesser heavenly physique, then as one of the 2 emperor physiques related to the eternal heaven physique, she would have an advantage that others did not. Their Su clan possessed the eternal heaven physique, immortal physique art, which was the strongest, most supreme, and most primordial immortal physique art in the world. Possessing such an immortal physique art, she hoped that one day she could cultivate the eternal heaven physique like their ancestor. That was also a great wish of their Xianxia clan. Now that she was born with the Yang Imperial Saint physique, it meant that she would forever be unable to cultivate the eternal heaven physique. Is great completion of the Yang Imperial Saint physique the end? Su Yongwang regained her composure and asked. Qiye shook his head and said, "Not necessarily. The Yang Imperial Saint physique still cannot escape the character Yang. It is merely a hybrid resulting from the combination of the eternal heaven physique and the heaven-devouring demon physique, Tuan Tian Mati. The Yang Imperial Saint physique is 9 Yang and 1 Yin. Yin gives birth to Yang within the Yin. As long as there is a sufficiently powerful immortal physique art, the Yang Imperial Saint physique can still ultimately cultivate the Supreme Sun physique, Tai Yang Ti. The Supreme Sun physique is one of the 2 ultimate Yang immortal physiques, along with the Eternal Heaven physique, both originating from the character Yang, Yang/Sun. What kind of immortal physique art can cultivate the Supreme Sun physique? Su Yongwang couldn't help but ask. Qiye glanced at Su Yongwang. He was originally going to remain silent, but finally said, "The strongest, most supreme, and most primordial immortal physique art." Hearing this, Su Yongwang's heart was shaken. The strongest, most supreme, and most primordial immortal physique art could only come from the physique scripture, but no one in the world knew where the physique scripture was. Her Qianxia clan had no specific records of how their ancestor, Immortal Emperor Ming Ren, obtained the eternal heaven physique, immortal physique art. However, the inheritors of the Su clan knew that their immortal physique art was the strongest, most supreme, and most primordial immortal physique art in the world, originating from the physique scripture. However, this was the highest secret. Aside from the inheritor, even the disciples of the Su clan did not know that their Su clan's immortal physique art came from the physique scripture. In reality, Qiye, as the Dark Crow, imparted the war god art and the eternal heaven physique, immortal physique art to General Su, but General Su swore an oath not to speak of the Dark Crow to later generations, and not to talk about the physique scripture to later generations. After a long while, Su Yongwang looked at Qiye and said, "I don't know your origin, but after our conversation today, I believe in your ability. If the cleansing incense ancient sect is helmed by you, it will rise one day. My ancestors' dedication will ultimately not have been in vain. The position of sect leader of the cleansing incense ancient sect, passing it on to you, is also the most suitable choice. Passing the position to me." Qiye was unexpectedly surprised. Su Yongwang looked at Qiye, smiled gracefully and nobly, and said, "When I assumed the position of sect leader of the cleansing incense ancient sect, the elders of the cleansing incense ancient sect did not look favorably upon me. I was well aware of this. If it weren't for the cleansing incense ancient sect being personally established by my ancestor, I wouldn't have been willing to get involved in this muddy water. Revitalizing the cleansing incense ancient sect, how easy is that to say? For me, a 13-year-old girl, to assume the position of sect leader, back then it sounded like walking into a dragon's pool and a tiger's den. If it weren't for Elder Su believing that I could cultivate the eternal heaven physique and letting me assume the sect leader position, I wouldn't have stayed. Su Yongwang's words were extremely straightforward and direct. Having said this, she paused, looked at Qiye, and said, "Now that the cleansing incense ancient sect has a successor, I also need to return to the Xianxia clan. You and your grandmother." Qiye blurted out, but then stopped. "What did you say?" Su Yongwang heard Qiye's words, looked at Qiye, and asked strangely. Qiye closed his mouth, shook his head, and said, "Nothing." What he had just blurted out was his intention to say that she was very similar to her grandmother, General Su. This was not only because her eyes resembled General Su's, but also because her spirit of dedication was very similar to General Su's. A 13-year-old girl, hailing from the Qianxia clan, assuming the sect leader position of the cleansing incense ancient sect. How difficult was that? It must be known that the cleansing incense ancient sect had declined today, and the Qianxia clan was undoubtedly far better off than the cleansing incense ancient sect. Today. That year, when the cleansing incense ancient sect was overwhelmingly powerful and ruled the 9 heavens and 10 lands, that kind of glory, that kind of splendor, that kind of authority had nothing to do with the Su clan. They were merely a reclusive family in a corner. However, today the cleansing incense ancient sect had declined. She, as the inheritor of the Qianxia clan, stepped forward to shoulder the responsibility of revitalizing the cleansing incense ancient sect. A 13-year-old girl, who was not even welcomed by the elders of the cleansing incense ancient sect that year, still chose to step forward. This was simply because the cleansing incense ancient sect was established by their ancestor, Immortal Emperor Mingren. Qiye couldn't help but sigh softly in his heart, recalling the past, his demeanor heavy. This matter was something he was unwilling to bring up. "I will explain to Elder Gu and the others. I can pass the position to you tomorrow." Su Yongwang was decisive, straightforward, and true to her heart. She was not greedy for the sect leader position of the cleansing incense ancient sect. Tu Buyu, who had been standing behind her all this time, could only sigh softly, saying nothing more. Qiye smiled and shook his head, saying, "You are mistaken. As a descendant of Immortal Emperor Mingren, no one is more suitable than you to sit in this position. Moreover, since you are a descendant of Immortal Emperor Mingren, revitalizing the cleansing incense ancient sect, to be precise, is not my responsibility. But yours, wouldn't you agree? Therefore, you remain the sect leader of the cleansing incense ancient sect, and I remain a disciple of the cleansing incense ancient sect. As for Elder Gu and the others, I believe they will eventually trust you." Su Yongwang looked at Qiye for a long time. Finally, she said nothing more, stood up, and left. Undoubtedly, she agreed to stay. "Does your Su clan still hold the long Shirto, Dragon Rises Head, Great Sacrifice?" As Su Yongwang was leaving, Qiye couldn't help but ask. Su Yongwang, who was about to leave, heard this question. Her body visibly trembled. She turned her head, stared at Qiye, and said in a deep voice, "How do you know about this matter?" "I calculated it with my fingers." Qiye sighed softly. Su Yongwang did not answer, but he already knew the answer. The long Shirto, Dragon Rises Head, day. Perhaps the descendants of the Su clan do not know. But this day is Immortal Emperor Mingren's birthday. Although General Su left and never saw Immortal Emperor Mingren again, she always still loved Immortal Emperor Mingren deeply. This point had always made Qiye embarrassed. That year, he persuaded General Su to follow Immortal Emperor Mingren, but alas, it ultimately led to this result. Su Yongwang stared intently at Qiye, remaining silent for a long time. Finally, she turned and left. However, just before stepping out the door, Su Yongwang suddenly turned back and said to Qiye, "I don't know your origin. But since you have made me stay, don't forget one thing, you are my disciple." Having said that, she gracefully left. After Su Yonghuang gracefully departed, Qiye couldn't help but chuckle. At least in this regard, she was not like her grandmother, General Su. Senior brother, may I leave now? As Su Yonghuang left, Tu Buyu asked with a kind smile. This old monster, over 1,000 years old, still called him senior brother, and did so without any awkwardness. This was truly admirable. Qiye couldn't help but glance at him and said, "You created such a mess. And now you want me to clean it up for you. As a junior brother, are you saying that if I tell you to go east, you wouldn't dare to go west from now on?" However, Tu Buyu was not angry at all. Smiling kindly and said, "Senior brother, you shouldn't blame me for this. To be precise, this mess was created by the former sect leader and the others. I, as a disciple, was merely a runner. Doing such things is a chore." Qiye glared at this old fox, but he also had no way to deal with this old fox. Tu Buyu left. Before long, Elder Gu and the others impatiently rushed in. Upon seeing Qiye, Elder Sun hurriedly said, "How was it? How did the discussion go?" "How was what discussion?" Qiye slowly said. "The matter of Ma Bei Ridge, let's discuss it later." "The matter of Ma Bei Ridge can be discussed later," Elder Qian said in a deep voice. "But in my opinion, we should first discuss the matter of the sect leader position. In my opinion, you should ascend the position now and become the sect leader of the cleansing incense ancient sect. At the time of reform, it will first stabilize the confidence of the disciples and boost morale. I also think it makes sense," Elder Wu said. "The sect leader has always been outside. Her prestige in the sect is not high, and she truly is not the popular choice for a cleansing incense ancient sect's major reform, to stabilize the morale. If the sect leader were to pass the position to you now, nothing could be better. You ascending to the sect leader position would also be justifiable." Thank you for watching. If you found the story interesting and meaningful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel.